Alright, Rockstar, some more Minecraft Pixelmon, if I could open the door. Okay, so last time we really worked on getting Larvesta, Sandile, and Popplio, well, not Popplio, Brion, up and running. And I want to start getting these three before we work on the rest of the team, which I have finally planned out. So my main goal for today is to get Brion fully EV trained. Now, we do have 129 speed, plus 64 special attack, so we're about 50% there. Alright, we need to slash warp EV speed so we can get the speed EVs. Alright, so getting this isn't going to be all that bad. Hopefully, I wish I actually had some EV training items. See, like 2 minutes and we've already gained 3% of our EVs. We're fine. We gotta chill through this. Hopefully, though, we can get this and really focus on the rest of the team. Where's my paper with my teammates? I want to go over the team real quick. See, so we needed to come up with counter Pokemon, you know, to counter the weaknesses of our team. So when we went over the team, the weaknesses that popped up the most, and actually the most common, were steel, water, and grass types. Those are the things that could destroy our team the easiest. See, that's a little tricky, though, because anything you could use to counter grass and steel in one Pokemon can automatically be discerned by water types. Well, you might be thinking, well, that's not a big deal. Just counter those two Pokemon typings and then get something for the water type. The reason I didn't want to do that, though, is because you could just literally work on countering all three of them, and you might not open yourself up to any bonus weaknesses, any new typing weaknesses, basically. So you can just keep covering the things that are already weak to you. So that way, even though you might be weak to certain things, you're not weak to a whole bunch of things, was my thinking. So how do you counter grass and steel and water when anything that counters grass and steel is countered by water itself? Well, maybe instead of going for something super effective, we thought about what if we went for something that's just resistant and is super effective against the other typing. So that's where I came up with fighting type to add to the team. See, fighting type Pokemon would be really good. It covers steel types for super effectiveness, and overall it doesn't apply any weaknesses that we can't permanently cover with the rest of our team already. Not anything that we already had decided, because between bug, fire, ground, dark, and water fairy, we could already cover things like psychic type weakness so easily it wasn't a big worry. Okay, so we've got a fighting type now, and that helps out with steel, but we're kind of leaving grass and water out of the way. Well, I thought, what if we got a flying type? That is kind of perfect. Flying fighting is what I ended up coming down to, and no, we're not going to use Flamigo. Flamigo is the stupidest Pokemon to ever exist, and I think that literally takes the spot of Klefki, who was at, I think, the top of my list at that point. Don't get me started on the fact that it's a flying fighting type. It makes no sense. His whole body is a twig. It should have no physical strength whatsoever. It should have speed and agility. It should be a pure flying or flying normal type. So, Hawlucha, that's who we're going to go to. Hawlucha is amazing. With the fighting flying type, we don't open ourselves up to any massive weaknesses again, but it does make electricity a little more prevalent to be worried about because of our water fairy and now our straight up flying type. So how do we cover all these things that we need to worry about now that Hawlucha is on the team with his weaknesses? Plus, on top of the fact that we do have to watch a little more out for electric type moves, even though we do have a ground type, but we don't want to rely on him too much. Not amazingly stressed about electric types, I decided to move on and just hopefully steady on the fact that I had a ground type, and we just won't look for any weaknesses with electric types. Otherwise, it would be worse than the grass, steel, or water weaknesses we originally had. So we don't exactly have any new weaknesses to cover at this point, outside of being ice and electric being a little more prevalent, but ice only affects Hawlucha. Plus, no matter what team you're gonna make, there's gonna be some overlapping weaknesses. So instead of trying to counter any new weaknesses or the same weaknesses we've already been preventing to cover up with our team members, what if we just look for something that's not gonna give us any new weaknesses? And I don't know if that came out of my mouth to actually make sense properly. My thought and idea was, okay, you know what? Let's go for a Pokemon that has basically no weaknesses, right? So what could we do? A normal type Pokemon. That is the smartest thing for us to do. Not only is it only weak against fighting types, but that gives us a clear advantage against ghost types as well. Since I never worry about fighting types on their lonesome because they're never too big of a threat unless it's specifically to one Pokemon. At least in my opinion from what I've experienced. So I wasn't worried about the fighting type threat. But the question is, with all of our other weaknesses that we still had, and the fact that we had no speedy Pokemon at the moment, how are we going to solve this? Well, none of our Pokemon are super fast. And even with a Crocodile, he's most likely going to be locked into one move from a Choice Scarf if we want him to be speedy. So what do we do to fix this? Well, first of all, let's get a fast normal type to get both our normal type and the actual speed we want. So because I always use Ursaring when I use normal types, and I always kind of fuddled to him, I thought let's use a classic Pokemon from Gen 1 I've never used, actually just straight up use Tauros. Tauros is good physical attacker. I have a lot of special attackers on the team, and he's the normal type that we want with a bit of speed. Now, he's not as fast as, say, Jolteon, but he's still pretty speedy. So now at this point, we just have one Pokemon left on our team. Who are we going to add? Well, first of all, we have no legendaries, we have no megas, and we have nothing specifically built for a Z move, which you don't want to build around a Z move, in my idea. But we still needed these gimmicks because they're a big part of battles, and they're going to help us. So, with only one speed Pokemon, I would like to have at least one more for priority, because I usually prefer a fast, heavy hitter than anything that can tank hits, as long as it can tank at least one. So the best way to get around every single one of these issues, Mega Gardevoir. Not only does it give us a Psychic type, a Pokemon typing we don't have, a secondary Fairy type in case of a Dragon or something that we need to go up against, or a Poison or Steel takes us out. It's a Mega that we just straight up don't use very often. I didn't use it in the last series. It's extremely fast, and it's a special attacker, which is usually my preferred. I love special attackers. I prefer the setup of their moves. I don't know what it is. So overall, I would love to think what you guys think about this team, and I hope I explained it where that's actually conceivable, because I already tried this part once, and I end up deleting the footage, because I just stumbled over my words so much it made no sense whatsoever. But the final team will eventually be a Popplio, which is a Brionne, Final Evolution, whatever that's called, I don't remember. Obviously, Volcarona, who we have on our party, and obviously Krookodile. Those three we have on our party, but then we finish up with Tauros, Mega Gardevoir, and good old Hawlucha. Hawlucha, I've never gotten to use in an official battle before, so I'm super happy to actually have that as a team member, or at least on the list to get as a team member. The only thing technically worrying about this team is that as good as all of these Pokemon are on their own, technically none of them are specially standout. Maybe Gardevoir, and technically Volcarona, I guess, because sometimes it's considered as a pseudo-legendary, even though it's not technically a pseudo-legendary. I know I used to think that. None of them are extremely super special or something, you know? It's not like there's no legendary on the team or anything like that I don't plan for a legendary. There's no ultra rare Pokemon or whatnot that you need to just get because it's so good. I think I chose a really well team. I'm just worried about the overall stats of them, because on paper this is one of the best teams I think I could possibly come up with, excluding legendaries. Then again, this team is also based off the first Pokemon I had, which was my starter, and then that led into Sandile, because I never really used Sandile or Krokorok. I don't think I've used them since my first original 1000 days over a year ago. The team looks so good on paper, and I'm so scared that it's not gonna work as well as I hope. So I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below, especially if I actually made sense. So at this point, we have finally maxed out our speed EVs at 252. Now we do have 13 attack EVs, which is absolutely horrible. So we can train it in special attack, but we need to actually get some berries to reduce its physical attack EVs. But the server's changed a lot, so I have no idea where, how expensive, or if they're even technically possible on this. Oh, 13 out of 252 doesn't sound like a lot for you EVs to be missing. Just forget about it. Well, if you remember the exact count, every 4 EV points you get 1 yield of that stat. So that means we're missing 4 separate point stat gains to make our special attack stronger. That's 4 different levels, technically, or 4 different stages that we could have. I don't know how you would technically label that. Basically, your attack or special attack stat is going to be 4 points shorter as strong as it could be, all because you didn't want to reset the physical attack EVs. And so it could be, that's really just not good overall. How many Pokemon battles have you been in where the last thing you do is you just complain because they lived on 1 HP? Oh, who was it? Jaden, was it Jaden Animations Pokemon Nuzlocke? When she animated I attempted a Pokemon Nuzlocke, one of them, she was specifically training her Pokemon on Poliwags, and then her Pokemon lived on 1 or 2 HP. The reason that happened is because Poliwags give EV HP training. That's all it is. They give EV HP yields. So without that, she would have just barely lost, because without those EVs, she wouldn't have lived that attack. Even just 4 or 5 of those Pokemon could have made all the difference in the world for her, and it did, because EV training, it makes such a difference in the long run. Our EV training, it's done. We're at 99%. We have to get rid of the rest of the attack EVs. I hope you did enjoy though, and we prepared our first perfect team member. I'll see you guys all next time, Rockstars. Peace.